Sunday.
It's Sunday morning.
I love mornings.
The games are over, and we're breaking it all down. This is your Morning After podcast, with all the insight and analysis on the Utes, Cougars, and Aggies. The Morning After podcast with Hans, Scotty, and Lloyd Cole begins right now.
And he gave us an opportunity to come in here and show what we're made of.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, welcome in. It's another edition of your Morning After podcast, a bi-week edition of the show. Hans Olsen, Scott Gerard, Lloyd Cole. Even though we don't have individual games to talk about, we still have a lot of college football to break down as we look ahead to the rivalry week. Gentlemen, how are you? Hans, how's everything up north? You having a good time?
Salt Lake City, hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Anybody back there?
We're under 2 inches of snow, Scotty. So I am live from a telephone line in Logan, Utah, under snow, but having an absolute blast. It's been a really fun weekend, man.
Did you get hit, Scotty?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got hit pretty good.
Okay.
What about West Valley?
Yeah, got a very, very, very light dusting. Very light.
Kern's
It's already
got
melted. Yeah. Magna got hit.
Magna really got pounded.
Magna. The West Valley of West Valley.
But it's been, man, what a fun time, Scotty. This staff they've done an incredible job with the recruiting and with the relationships and with everything. The recruiting trips are different. Like, they used to just fly the kid out, and now they bring the whole family out. And so Ash and me and Amanda and Pojo came up, and like, we've just all been out here eating, hanging out, having a blast, man. We went bowling last night, and I sucked. I bowled the worst game I've ever bowled, which sucks, Scotty, and you know why, because the entire staff was there, and they were all bowling, and I'm down to my white shirt.
Did you go sub 100?
Oh, I shot a 75. If we're gonna just tell stories, I shot a freaking 75. Gosh, and Amanda was watching. And
Did somebody go up to you and say you're embarrassing yourself in front of your wife? Let me embarrass you.
No, because luckily I didn't try to charge the bowling alley and be like, I want to bowl right now. I'll take on anybody. Like, I just got pulled into bowling, and man, I just humiliated myself. But we're over it, and I just walked out of the team breakfast. We're still here, so I just walked out of the team breakfast for this big recruiting deal, and so I'm missing the breakfast because I love the Morning After podcast.
Lloyd, you having a good weekend so far?
The weekend has been great. We did a little bit of ice skating actually yesterday. Took the family ice skating because actually the boys are going to be doing, because they haven't, because I'm a terrible father. I haven't taken them ice skating. And so I took them ice skating because they're actually going to be doing a learn hockey. They got a little fun little thing with the rec center where they get to learn hockey. That's the cool thing about having like the NHL now. Now there's all these things to try to get kids involved with hockey. So
all right,
and they're excited. Cool. They want to do it.
All right. Well,
how about yourself, Scotty?
You know what? It's been pretty low key weekend, man. I went up. I was also up in Logan, getting ready for basketball season, so I kind of hung out with the basketball team yesterday morning and checked out what they've got brewing, which I think should be a pretty good team too. So I'm pretty fired up. So it was fun. Other than that, just kind of chilling out, not doing a lot, man. Because it's the calm
Scotty,
before the storm.
By the way, a couple of freaking great food places here in Logan. I'd never been to the Beehive House, or what is it called?
Yeah,
Beehive?
Beehive Grill.
The Beehive Grill. Woo, that was
Yeah.
good. I had the they just call it their steak pasta, but I got the penne pasta instead.
Yep.
And it's a white cream sauce with, I believe it's a skirt I think it's just a grilled skirt steak that's chopped up and tossed in with some mushrooms, and then they just do some garlic bread. So Beehive House was incredible. The boys ordered the freaking menu, and then I got the turtle cake. It's caramel in the middle with chocolate. That was fantastic. And then they took us to, is it Ruby's or Rudy's?
Rudy's. That's where I do the coaches show. Ruby's.
Yeah. Is that where you do the show?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude. Great pizza, great wings.
Yeah.
Great food. We just hung out, watched games, ate as much food as we could put in our bellies, and some good food spots here. I'd never have been to either one.
Yeah, no, they do a good job there.
Why do I picture it when you guys got there? There was a sign that said Olson's Eat Free, and then it was kind of like Remember the Titans. You guys went in and you did a cleaned house, and they had to change that.
And then on the way out, they turn it backwards.
They turn it backwards. Sorry, not welcome.
Yeah. We damaged the place. There's no question, because Teague and a couple of the other O linemen came out with us on that one. Scott.
Nice.
So we smashed the place. But yeah, Lloyd, when we left, we did hear the applaud from the kitchen.
The excitement of you guys leaving.
The wait staff.
Took a deep sigh of relief. Like, whew.
Oh man, check out the inventory.
I wasn't sure if that was us or if that was Texas Tech scoring in the final seconds to win. I wasn't sure.
All right, it's we got rivalry week coming up, and we'll break that game down from every angle. But some interesting news out of the Big 12. Down goes Iowa State as they lose, and now this conference sitting atop the Big 12 standings all by themselves, is BYU after Iowa State gets the 23-22 victory. And Houston knocks off Kansas State, too.
God, that one's crazy.
Yeah, there's a few things that were great about this weekend, because there was a chance where if Iowa State, Kansas State, BYU, and Colorado all went with one loss, like if somebody found a way to beat BYU, then there was a chance that BYU could be kept out of that one loss scenario. But now the two losses for Kansas State, that's guaranteed. You got one loss for Iowa State, and they play Kansas State. I think Kansas State's going to beat Iowa State, but we'll see. I think there's a slim chance it could be BYU and Colorado in that Big 12 championship.
Could. Very well could.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a chance, which I think would be gigantic.
That was how it was all predicted. We all projected that.
I know. Every one of us
BYU, Colorado.
Every one of us thought it. We were just all afraid to say it out loud. But just like the current the current voting process, the current election, like we're all thinking one thing. We're all afraid to say it out loud. That's how we were with the Big 12. But I'm telling you, it could be BYU, Colorado, and that could be an absolute blast. Now, it sucks, fellas, because I do think undefeated Iowa State, undefeated BYU in the Big 12, maybe there's a chance they both get in.
Yeah.
Maybe. But when you start feasting on each other a little bit and you start taking shots at each other's schedules and win-loss records, it's probably going to knock it down a bit. But think about the networks, BYU, Colorado, each of them, maybe BYU's undefeated, Colorado's a one-loss team. I think that would get the craziest publicity. I think people would blow it up. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And I still want to see BYU play this Colorado team because I think they'd match up well against them. But, yeah, interesting how things worked out yesterday. The other thing, I tweeted this out, Scotty and Lloyd. So all four of BYU road wins, they won yesterday. And those road wins yesterday combined for 190 points, 190 points combined. BYU held those four teams to 81 points total. So what we've been seeing from BYU's wins on the road, which, should favor them highly, especially with SMU destroying Pitt. I think a lot of good things happened yesterday for BYU.
Yeah, it was a good day for BYU. And it's interesting because I sent out a tweet last night. And I don't know, man. I want to respond to a bunch of people because I'm like, this is what we're going to do today on the Sabbath day, holy. We're going to be all salty because this is what I tweeted out. I said outside of just being very, very good, a lot of things have gone BYU's way this year. SMU turning into an absolute juggernaut is certainly one of them.
It's a great tweet,
right? Like BYU's very, very good. Nobody's denying that. They're very good.
There's a lot of things happening around it.
And a lot of things are going very well. Let's see here. Jason tweets in, please elaborate on the things that have gone BYU. I keep hearing this, but no one ever talks about it. BYU has earned or created every advantage. Give them some freaking credit.
Oh, my gosh.
Let's see. Another one. Let's see. Where's another one that said another guy came at me that said that give them some more credit. Oh, that I'm a Utah fan, and that.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, here we go. It's just media types that are fans of Utah downplaying any BYU success since first 3 years of Utah being in the Pac-12. They were 9-18. BYU is in second year having this level of success, so it must be a fluke. Down year, things have gone their way. All discrediting.
And you said it very, very good, did you not? In the tweet?
Yeah. So anyway,
I don't understand. Maybe they misread it or what?
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, whatever.
Well, I sent out a tweet just showing the records of the current Pac-12 teams, where they are in their new conference. There was another guy in the media that fired back and was like, "You know better." It's like, what?
Whoa.
Hey, whoa, dude. First of all, you don't know me, so just slow it all down. Like, that's not how I'm coming at this. I'm sending out information. Well, what exactly are you trying to say with it? Well, I do a daily show and I do a weekend podcast that we talk at length about these things. It has nothing to do with nothing other than putting out the facts and then saying, well, what does this mean? Because it means a lot of different things. It's not just taking a shot at the former Pac-12 teams. It's like there's a lot of deep-rooted meaning in these teams dispersing and being a part of the Big Ten or ACC or Big 12 or, their two little conference that's now more independent trying to schedule things. Like there's a lot of depth and meaning to it. And it's the way people come at you on social media is just bizarre nowadays.
I know.
I'm to the point, guys, where I want to just delete it, but I get too much information off of Twitter. I don't use any other social media, but I get a lot of information off Twitter. So I have to stick around it. But then I try to send out some informative tweets, but I'm not out there to start debates. Oh, what do you mean by this? Like, I'm not going to use Twitter to debate you. What are you talking about? It's ridiculous, some of these people.
I know. Well, it's just like we're going out of our ways to be offended. Like I'm telling you, BYU is really good. But when you have those special seasons, and Hans, you saw this in '96 on part of that special team that you were a part of, like you have to be very good, and you also have to get a few breaks to go along your way. BYU has stayed very healthy this year. There's been a couple injuries, but for the most part, they've stayed relatively healthy. They don't play Iowa State. They don't play Colorado. The really good teams they played at home. Oklahoma State was way down this year. We thought that was going to be a hard team. The schedule actually shifted in their favor this year. Like, it's so, when they did play SMU, they tried to go with one quarterback, and they didn't go with the kid who's been tearing up for them until the second half. And so, like, it's okay to say, like, hey, yeah, things have gone our way, and we're really good. The two things can be true at the same time, and it's okay to admit that because special seasons those things kind of have to fall in line for you.
They do. They do. And there is nothing in discrediting that. Nothing. Absolutely
whether it's Utah or BYU. I mean, Utah's had to have some things go their way to get into Pac-12 championships at times. Like, there's been things that have needed to go, and they've had to win games too. They've had to take care of their business, and they've also needed some help. Like, that's been part of it. I mean, heck, that one year they had to have a lot of things go their way, and all they needed to do was beat Colorado, and it didn't happen. But they had to have a lot of things go their way, and they ended up having, they had a pretty good season. But it happens for all the teams. Like, even in 08, you have to have some things kind of go your way. I mean, sure, you ran the table, you took care of your business. But everybody, you always have to have some things kind of bounce your way as well.
Well, because when BYU does make it to this Big 12 championship game, and whatever the potential outcome is, the history books aren't going to be like, well, they did stay extremely healthy. And the history books don't say any of that crap. All it says is Big 12 championship game participants, whatever the outcome is. Like, nobody's going to look back at Utah in history books and be like, yeah, but the times they won the Pac-12, when they won the Pac-12, they were still juggernauts, man. They had the personnel, they had the coaching, they're freaking beasts, and they deserved everything they got because they were ready for every moment that they had. But we know sports well enough to say there's crazy things that happen along the way. And the less craziness that you face, the better off you are. Just take a look at what Utah's dealing with right now. They are dealing with so much BS, like absolute BS that they're dealing with. I can't even believe what these guys are facing right now. Especially going into this season with all the excitement and what felt like team unity and returning players and health. And now we're sitting here looking at a 4-4 team, wondering if they're going to keep this game against BYU competitive, which, then we blow off and we just know it's going to be a competitive game because it is. That's just how this game is. But you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's just bonkers the way these seasons happen.
Yeah. I mean, look, I called a Utah State team that won a Mountain West Conference title a few years ago. That was a good team. And they got lucky on a lot of things that kind of went their way that year. And it's okay. It's okay. Those special years, you kind of have to have those things kind of fall into place for you sometimes. And, it's both things can be very much true. If you're Utah, Lloyd, and you're getting ready for this game coming up on Saturday, how do you, from a mental standpoint, how do you try to get right going into this when, as Hans mentioned, there's so many things going against you. There's so many injuries. There's this big black cloud and, Mekhi Bernard and all these things that have been going on throughout this last week. How do you mentally get right for this game against BYU?
Hey, if you're Kyle Whittingham, you are, and I know they've been now using probably this underdog card for a while now because they've been an underdog for the last couple of games, but you use every type of, Yoda-ism that you can use and try to somehow get in these guys' minds. And I mean, they're the underdog now. They are the underdog. Nobody expects them to win. Nobody, except for maybe a couple of fans. And I don't even know if those couple of fans will even admit it. You do whatever you can to play that underdog card, and hopefully, we talked about it on the Ute preview show. Hopefully, I think it was Mac that said they know who that quarterback is right now, and so hopefully they've got that part of it worked out, and they know who their quarterback is. I know we're not going to find that out, I would imagine, until kickoff, until that very first series. But hopefully everybody knows who it is, and you do whatever you can. These coaches got to. These coaches got to get with these kids, and they got to. I mean, this is a team that had so many. The expectations were so high. Like they have to get back to believing. And right now, they're not believing.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. You can work in the song title here. Don't stop believing. But I think BYU's kind of got the hold down on that song. But
Trademark. They've got it trademarked.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that Utah certainly is more than capable, Hans, defensively to slow down BYU. I just don't know offensively how they score points against BYU.
Yeah, I don't either. it would take their defense, and it'll take some special teams aspects. And like we talked about in, I think it was the preview show with Frank, or maybe it was Football Fridays with Alima and Coach Mack, but they're going to have some wrinkles.
Yeah.
They're going to have to be unpredictable with packages that we've seen in the past that you shake your head and think, man, I did not see that coming. And Bajakian, this new offensive coordinator, is going to have to get a little creative, because if they try to just run this thing straight up, I think that they're going to be stopped, slowed down, pushed into long field goals, and forced into 4th and 3, 4th and 5 decisions that haven't panned out so well for them so far this year. But by all accounts, BYU's defense should be able to hold them. But that's why I keep thinking they have to come out with the unthinkable. And then the other thing I do is, if I'm Aaron Roderick, we go to Jake Retzloff and we say, one thing we're not going to do is give them short fields and give them opportunity to score on short fields. We're not going to do that. I'm not saying get conservative, but these are the routes that we're looking for. These are the coverages that we've seen. And then Utah's defense is going to have to figure out every way they can to force those turnovers and get those short fields. But this offense has been so anemic, they're going to have to do something different.
So we'll have complete coverage of this game leading up to kickoff. Of course, your pre- and post-game shows and everything else. Hans will have the call of the game as well. Just looking around the rest of the Big 12, I actually thought Oklahoma State might give Arizona State some trouble, but Arizona State wins that game 42-21 over Oklahoma State in Stillwater. So now Mike Gundy falls to 0-6 in Big 12 play. And outside of Utah, they're probably the biggest disappointment in the conference this year. And then you got Central Florida. How about Central Florida rebounding and beating Arizona 56-12? They were up 35-6 at halftime. And so Central Florida kind of flexed on them. And then Dave Aranda and Baylor got to win over TCU 37-34. I mean, it was a weird day in the Big 12.
Yeah, that was a fun game. Did you guys get to watch? I watched about 40% of that game.
The Baylor TCU game?
Yeah, and I got to watch the end. And Baylor scored, and then TCU scored late. And then Baylor goes down and scores a touchdown, I believe, as time came off the clock. Is that right?
I have not gone back and watched that game. It was I think it was a field goal as time expires.
Oh, that's what it was. It was field goal. It was because they were tied, like 37-37, and they kicked a field goal. But that was right after TCU had gone down and scored to tie it up. And I thought that there was probably going to be overtime, but they did a good job with beautiful pass and then a crazy run right up the middle for like 12, 15 yards to force a pretty easy field goal. His time expired. They did great with clock management. It's the best Baylor looked, but that's like what I mentioned, Scotty. Baylor's one of those road wins for BYU. Baylor, you just mentioned UCF and their 56 or 59 points or whatever they put up. 37, 38, 39, 39, 40 points it was from Baylor, whatever that ended up being. It was a big day for road wins for BYU. And I don't know what TCU does now with Dave Aranda. I don't know, man, because Baylor has not been beat TCU a lot over the last 10 years.
Yeah. It's one of those things, man, where it's just like this whole conference just felt like yesterday. And for the most part, it hasn't been too tipsy-topsy of a conference, but yesterday with Texas Tech, Houston winning, and then Arizona State
had a Pac-12 vibe to it.
It did. It did have a
Pac-12 after dark. After dark type thing to it.
And by the way, let's give some love to SMU beating previously undefeated Pitt 48-25, and so. As we mentioned, that win of that BYU's got over SMU just keeps looking better and better. SMU was up 31-3 at halftime there, Hans, and I know that was a game you were trying to keep a close eye on.
Yeah, crazy score, man. Crazy score, and they just thumped them right out of the gates. And you start to wonder, can SMU win the ACC? And let's just say, just for giggles, let's say BYU gets to the Big 12 championship game. And let's say they do lose. But let's say SMU goes on and wins the ACC championship. How much does that affect BYU's wild card chances? I mean, it's got to play into it, does it not?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So the more you see SMU inflict damage in the ACC, it's better for BYU, and they're just killing teams. I wonder with SMU's win yesterday and UCF's score, and that's the most recent opponent for BYU. I don't know, man. Lloyd, what do you think? AP top 25, and then we've got our first CFP polls that are going to be coming out this week. I'm saying anywhere from number 6 to number 8 for BYU.
Yeah, and they the way it's looking, they should be. They've earned. I think they've earned that. There was a lot of people that they're just dipping their toe in the BYU waters, but I think it's time to get it. I think they've earned it, man. They deserve it. Their resume is looking better and better. If you go look, like even some of those teams that are some of those SEC teams, like who their resumes aren't great, but you look at what BYU has done. Like, come on. There's got to be something. Am I saying that the BYU would beat any of those teams? No, I'm not saying that. But resume-wise, like they're there. Their resume says it. Sponsor us now. Sponsor us.
Did you see Brett McMurphy's poll this morning? BYU at 6, just above Indiana. He's got BYU in front of Indiana. Indiana's
and he, by the way, and Brett's been one of those. That has been a little bit like, I don't know. He's been one of those, and I think last week he's like, oh, okay. He started moving them up a little bit where he would have them. So he's one of those members that wasn't sold on BYU, but I think he's starting to buy in a little bit more.
And
as far as
he
what the
should.
resume is.
I mean, let's just be honest here. BYU, and Lloyd, I think you hit it right on the head. Their resume is as good as anybody's. Is absolutely as good as anybody's right now, if not better. And I'll try to break down some numbers and go strength of schedule and things like that. But the win against Kansas State, and I know Kansas State lost yesterday, but the win against Kansas State, the win against SMU, you go down the list of who they've beaten, and now you get the Baylor win. That certainly helps things out. You look at what BYU and the body of work they're putting together right now, it's as good as anybody in the country.
Yep. It is, man, and I think pollsters need to take a look at what these teams are scoring, what their average scoring is, and what BYU's holding them to.
Yes.
And that's going to indicate just how significant their defense has been and is. And I also think that that's a real indicator of how BYU could potentially finish the season. If we were talking about shootouts, BYU and shootouts, that's way less reliable to me than talking about BYU holding teams to X amount of rushing yards, X amount of points, and their defense being as dominant as they are. There's just more reliability in that. I know BYU's defense can show up. I know that they're going to hold a high-scoring team to somewhere around 20 to 24 points, and all BYU's offense has to do is take advantage of some of the field position this defense gives them, not make big mistakes, and allow Jake Retzlaff to be poised and confident. It's a perfect formula.
It really is. And, I know that and now you look at some of the other distractions that could come in for BYU, and I'm a little curious to know how they handle that because, frankly, you're going to have, Jay Hill's name come up for jobs. You're going to have Kalani Sitake hopefully in conversations with a contract extension. Aaron Roderick's name should be coming up for a job. A lot of these guys are going to get attention in terms of maybe bigger payouts in the NIL, so their DMs are going to get blown up by high-level P5 schools. And then also our guys going to be leaving and going into the NFL draft. Like this is the byproduct. This is the byproduct of being a very good team, and how you insulate yourself from that and focus at the task at hand is going to be really important for BYU, because one of these little things could get into your mind and distract you a little bit, and the margin of error is razor thin, as we found out yesterday in the Big 12. They've got to stay focused. I think they will. I think they're a mature team led by great coaches who will keep this team grounded. But again, Hans, you know better than anybody, it's really easy to get your head spinning when you're dealing with a lot of good things coming your way.
Well, and make no mistake, that is up to them. So BYU fans, they get to be listeners, and the three of us, we just get to enjoy it. And you wear it like a badge of honor if you're a BYU fan. When you hear your coordinator brought up in talks of this job or that job, or you hear your head coach in major extensions, or you start to hear the rumors and the buzz of, man, he's getting a second to third round draft grade. It's a badge of honor. Don't sit there and be like, well, and get all huffy about it. This is ridiculous. It's a badge of honor, man. This is something you have to earn as a team to get this kind of publicity. That isn't up to you to be huffy about it. It's up to them to insulate from it. They're the ones that have to continue on. It'll all be gone. That's the one thing they've all got to understand. They lose to Utah. They lose to Kansas. It's all gone. All of it. The momentum, the excitement, the talk, the rankings, it's all gone. And as great as an 8-0 start is, if they don't take care of business, then it's like we're sitting here talking about what could have been. And, man, was that a crazy run. And, geez, if they could have done this. That's up to those guys. That's not up to us. That's not up to the fans. Like, have fun with this, man. Enjoy it. Feel good for these coaches when their names pop up as head coaching candidates or, major increase candidates. Like Chase Roberts, the receiver, already said, I'm headed to the NFL. Good for you, Chase. Good for you. Now go finish out these 4 games, these 4 regular season games. Go hit yourself a championship game. Go hit yourself a CFP game if you can, and really get that draft stock up, man. If you're going to announce you're headed to the NFL, the best thing you could do is, hey, I'm headed to the NFL, and then go put on a showcase, bud.
Yep.
That's it. And if you're going to make that public, dude, you can turn this into a multi-million-dollar campaign for yourself, bud. But you got to go do it. And it's up to them, Scotty. We don't hold any accountability. Now, the fans that show up and make that stadium miserable, they're going to hold some accountability because they're absolutely helpful in win-loss categories. But I just hope people enjoy this run, man, because it's not up to them to insulate. This coaching staff and this team just has to stay unified, and they got to keep the noise out and continue to believe and play with a chip on their shoulder. Nobody can start to get complacent and feel like, oh, we've arrived. Yeah, you've arrived in the moment, but look how quick a moment could be snatched from you and turn into something completely different. So you better stay focused.
Well, the one thing you don't want is 10 years from now or 20 years from now, when you have the reunion of the 2024 football team and you all get back into LaVell Edwards Stadium and you're chumming around and having a good time, and you're thinking, oh man, you know what? Had we stayed focused in that 24 season, just how good could we have been? We could have been great, but we slipped up and lost to Utah, or, we got so excited about this and we looked ahead to this game and we lost to this team. Like, just don't allow yourself to have any regrets from 10 years from now, 20 years from now, because these seasons don't happen very often. We mentioned LaVell Edwards went undefeated once in his glorious run of being one of the best coaches in the history of college football. He went undefeated one time at BYU. You can't, these years don't come along very often, so you can't screw it up. You got to find a way to finish it.
Is it easier for a team like this, Hans, to stay focused and to, I don't know, because it was a team that came in and nobody picked them. they were towards the bottom. Nobody was picking this team. And to have that edge, that extra edge that has been able to hold them for the whole season, because nobody believed them. You hear it in every press conference. Kalani said, hey, nobody believed us, and now you're believing in us. I mean, there's that edge, and it feels like that's enough to keep them focused for the season. Whereas, Utah had the expectations. They were high, and it was almost like the team just thought everybody was just going to cower down to them, and nobody was going to put up a fight. And it didn't work out that way.
The disrespect was so deep. I think that they are going to forget it. I think that will always carry. But then it's also week-to-week stuff, like UCF being a 2.5-point favorite.
Right.
And then I actually think Utah is a really good opponent for them right now, because it forces them back into the tunnel, back into the cave of, man, guys, if we don't, man, and we lose to a 4-4 rival, there is real importance and emergence placed on this game. I think it's a pretty good opponent for them to continue to focus and feel like there's a chip on their shoulder. If Kansas plays well, I'm kind of hoping Kansas plays well to keep their eyes wide open and keep them wide awake. And I'm talking about the week before, to leading up to their game. It's like every week there's been some level of disrespect and some level of national noise, and they don't feel ranked high enough, or Vegas is favoring this team. And I want it to all keep working in that direction. Just keep these guys feeling doubted and keep that chip on their shoulder. And even if they got to remember back to where they were picked and who was talking about them, like what I predicted or what anybody predicted, and be like, man, those guys are idiots. What complete clowns. Let's keep just shoving it down their throat. We're more than happy to report that they're shoving it down our throat.
Yep.
More than happy. Just keep doing it.
All right. That's a bye week. Anybody else? You want to add anything else to this before we wrap this thing up?
No, just headed back from Logan, buddy.
There you go.
Headed back from Logan.
Let's get this week started.
Trip.
Tell Nate, Cooper, and the rest of the crew hi for me.
Oh, I will. I'll let them know. They all asked about you while I was up here. So
I don't believe you for a second, but that's all right.
Oh, they did. They did. But it's been a blast, man. This Utah State's campus is incredible, and it's been a lot of fun to have an opportunity to just see how things go on recruiting trips up here. They do a masterful job, man.
A little bit different than your recruiting trip back in the day.
Way different. Yeah. Way different.
Which one?
Yeah. Now there was a point where they were like, okay, we're taking parents home, and you head back to your hotel, and then they go off with players and they go have a blast. But it's crazy nowadays because you're like, hey, I need to FaceTime you. It's 12:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Hey, why aren't you answering your FaceTime? Oh, I will.
Give me a second.
So he answers the FaceTime. I'm like, all right, dude, hold the phone up. Do a complete 360 for me.
Let me see where you're at.
Oh, wow. I love it.
Yeah, it's different, dude.
That's a good dad right there.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
the parents couldn't do that to us back in the day, man. But
and good thing, too.
yeah, I learned a thing or two about these recruiting trips now.
Jeez.
All right, well, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thanks for listening. We'll have complete coverage of the rivalry game coming up next week, beginning bright and early tomorrow morning. We'll be on the air at noon. Lloyd's got a bunch of great guests. Hans, I know you've dialed into a bunch of former teammates and players as well, so we'll have complete coverage of the Utes and the Cougars. It's rivalry week. It is upon us as we count you down to what should be a fun one coming up Saturday night. For Hans, Lloyd, I'm Scott. Thanks for listening. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This has been your Morning After Podcast with Hans, Scotty, and Lloyd Cole. Catch more of the Hans and Scotty Show weekdays from noon to 3 and in podcast form by searching Hans and Scotty on your podcasting platform of choice. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.